All right, welcome everyone. We're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we're here for
Noragami, Season 1, Episode 7. Last episode was ridiculous.
Last episode felt like a mid-season finale in a lot of ways. We had a lot of the characters crashing into this chaotic situation in a park.
Yep.
We got to know a little bit more about how bad the situation is, though, between Yukine and Yato.
Yes.
Because Yato is unable to, as it seems, really cleanse himself of the situation where the kind of the dark
corruption,
kind of corruption thing is piling up on the back of his neck. And usually, I'm guessing the way he's talking about it, it would be fine. But this is a much more dramatic case. So I think what this is just the kind of stuff in the story that pushes the two of these characters in order to actually have a good, heart-to-heart on this.
Or it'll get worse.
Or stakes will basically be enacted, that they have to actually split up. And that was something that he questioned was, are we actually going to be able to do this together?
Yep.
Which is cool because, in a lot of ways we can look at this in the immediate meta sense and go, yes, they're going to be able to do this at least for the foreseeable future.
Right. They are the main three.
Yeah. Exactly. But maybe some part of their dynamic will change so dramatically in that what they've been doing thus far can't continue the exact same way.
Right.
Yeah. But y'all, without further ado, let's get into this. All right, everyone. Now be sure to go check out the reaction portion of the video in the description below. Then come back here for the discussion. All right. Okay. So we've got ourselves a very specific end result. If the Yukine Yato situation isn't resolved either by Yukine dying, Yato and Yukine splitting off, and no longer being Regalia and Master, or them just finding a way to work together, Yato will die. Okay.
Right.
And this is a good, I would say, simple but final mechanic in that the Blight thing, the corruption, if it spreads all the way, it's not going to override his will or anything like I was thinking before. It's just going to kill him.
Yep.
It's just the one way a god will die outside of just getting eaten by a phantom or something like that.
Right.
It's a risk that they run anytime they get into a contract deal with a Regalia.
Yep.
Which is good, I would say, to know, but I wonder if Yato doesn't share this stuff in general because it is a way that a Regalia could use that against him.
Well, I don't know.
Why does he not tell him that, though?
Well, one of the reasons why I love it is because it gives a cost to, or a more definitive cost to the fact that he bears some of the burdens that Yukine had in his life, right?
Yes.
So it isn't something that Yato can just do casually, right?
Definitely.
Even though he definitely needs a Regalia. And maybe if I were to think of a reason for why he doesn't tell Yukine, there's the aspect of it where he's not treating him like a person, really.
So he doesn't see the reason to.
He doesn't see the reason to.
Yeah.
And then also maybe, or at least what I would just think it could be in sort of more of a positive light, is that he's not wanting Yukine to worry about that stuff. He's not wanting him to have the burden of sort of responsibility because
it's the parent who's bad at parenting.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And, and what he really needs to do is he needs to take little Johnny to the back of the porch, crack open a cold beer with him, and hand it to him and say, hey, we
need to have the talk.
We need to have a talk, about serious stuff and treat him like an adult and everything.
Exactly.
And there will be a lot of respect and stuff that will come with that. And then he'll be willing to take on the responsibility that comes with being a Regalia.
Yep.
Or maybe he won't, but he'll be fully equipped to potentially want to do that, as opposed to feel like he's being forced to do that, and then of course he'll keep getting pushed further and further away.
Right.
And I love that in this, because there's that whole sort of like parenting parallel sort of a style to it. It is something that has a direct negative effect on Yato.
Yeah.
Right. Like also on Yukine. Right. But it affects both of them. It's not just one-sided. So
yeah, there's a unique angle to this with regards to what they did in Soul Eater. In Soul Eater, they had the weapons be people as well. and they had this idea of there being the resonance of their souls being in alignment.
Right.
And it was a constant mechanic. However, this one is a little bit more, it's less fluid. It's more of like staining a napkin, or like kind of having a napkin in this way. So when you think about like a handkerchief or a napkin or something like that, the truth of the matter is that he's more like a handkerchief than he is a napkin. You can clean and take care of a handkerchief. Did I say more like a napkin? He's more like a handkerchief. You can manage and take care of your handkerchief, and it's going to be okay. You can use it plenty, and then as long as you take care of it and stuff, it's going to be okay.
And things like that.
Right.
Yeah.
But a napkin eventually
you just throw it out.
You just throw it out. And Yato's been doing that over and over again with his Regalia. At least twice is what he's going through thus far.
And I gotta say, that whole soul resonance thing was something that I absolutely loved about Soul Eater. I loved how they covered it. I really like how this show is covering it in a lot of cases a lot more than in the case of Soul Eater, because in that show there wasn't really ever too much conflict between the weapons and the Meisters.
There was one part near the end, or near the half point,
right? And there's with one particular person where they constantly have trouble with their weapon, but that wasn't as much of a thing. So I like it here because it's showing that the relationship, you don't just get to start with
it's first and foremost, from the beginning, front and center.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the show itself,
right? And because we see the relationship start with Yato making Yukine his Regalia, we get to see all the stumbling blocks and obstacles that they need to overcome.
Right.
And because these characters are both stubborn in their own ways and things like that, hence conflict, right? And hopefully that'll make it for a wonderfully cathartic experience when they finally do what Hiyori said and have that talk and things like that.
Yeah, there's a couple ways that I think, because of this show being so kind of in the onset, like kind of in the beginning of the story overall, like they're still setting up a bunch of things. They're still using kind of, convenient encounters to give good exposition regarding things that make sense to bring up. So we're still kind of in that early stages of the story with regards to things like how Senjin ends up telling, Hiyori all about what Nora are.
Right.
Because of the fact that Yukine would go to another god and be like, "Hey, I'm done. I don't want to be with them." And they're like, "Aha, yeah. See, the thing is, it's not that easy.
Right.
You kind of have to go to them and have them unname you.
Right. You're under contract right now. You have to get them to sign you off first, and
there might be a severance fee. You have to figure that whole thing out yourself.
Right. Otherwise it's breach of contract, and that gets complicated, and it really doesn't make you. It doesn't
fundamental magic and all that. We don't want to mess with the laws of
the
reality.
Old stuff.
Yeah. Exactly. Right. Yes. So we end up learning what a Nora is, in that she is not actually named Nora. In that respect, Yato. Now I have a couple things to say about this. Yato might be kind of just disrespecting her in this regard by being like, "No, you're Nora. I won't even call you by the name in which I said to you," because on one hand, just saying her name is like saying, "I summon you," because remember they have their multiple different names and stuff like that.
Right.
But he probably is so triggered about the idea of actually saying any of her names, because when he said her name in the past, that would be it's time to kill.
Right. It makes me think of like an alcoholic that's just like,
I can't look at you.
I put down the bottle. I'm not going to go near it. I'm going to give it a wide enough berth so that way it doesn't.
But this bottle has legs and it follows you around and whispers your name with a very eerily creepy, cute voice.
No.
But the other thing I had as an idea was, what if she was the first one and they named them all Noras because that was her actual name? That could because gods are immortal, right? There's no telling actually who was the first Regalia to do that.
That is a great point. They did mention the other one that came up that looked also ominous and scary looking, called her Scarlet, I think. But that...
Oh, right. But you can have multiple names.
Right, yeah. But you can have multiple names.
You never know.
That might just be the one that he gave her,
but that's just a theory. Right. He doesn't really have any base.
I like it as a headcanon. Yeah. I don't think there's any reason to have it actually the case, but I like it.
On the complete other side of things, we have Bishamon, aka Vina, going out and assembling the team, and they're going to go clear up the phantoms that came through the vent. Awesome.
I'm glad that's being addressed.
Awesome. It's something that is taken seriously. They actually went and hired out as many gods as they can in their regalia to try and clear this up. Even they were like, even like gods, unaffiliated ones. And I love the idea that they're like, we had to outsource a bunch of this. Yeah. So we even got some like no-name recruits as we could just to get the deal on this because hey, we're only one, squad, Yeah. And we're all tied to the one god as well.
Right. We'll do a collab, a shill for shill, but we need your help over here.
It's good stuff. But what I really liked, and this just doubled down on it here, is that we see an actually healthy relationship of sorts between a Regalia and their master for the first time, and it's from our antagonist.
Right.
And what's so cool about this is that the antagonist of sorts asked the Regalia to speak freely because they're alone. Now, there's a little bit of favoritism kind of shown in there of if the other ones were around, you wouldn't be allowed to speak freely. But I allow you to speak freely because they're not. Oh, whatever.
Yeah.
But
pecking order, leadership.
Exactly. All that stuff. Sure. Oldest friend, newer friends, whatever.
Right. Don't want to present an ununited front or something.
Right. Yeah. And there's the idea of the Supreme Commander and the XO being like, we talk freely when we're behind closed doors, so that we don't have insubordination or anything like that.
Exactly.
But the idea that he goes and kind of has this like, you're not taking care of yourself as well as you should, which is such a good, like, just, if you're a good friend, you can call your friend on that kind of stuff. You're just like, dude, like, what's the deal with your hair? Get a haircut, or something like that. Then you can have the other angle where he then goes and just lays into her and is like, you acted completely out of character there. That whole thing there was something where we could have handled this way better, but because you had your personal grudge, we ruined the whole thing.
Right.
And then she has her moment of goes, okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
Which is something that I looked at initially and was like, all right, now it's too painful. But I was like, whoa, actually, hold on. That was vulnerability that she showed there, because she opened up to let him lay into her and said, speak freely, anything is okay.
And then she was like, all right, red light,
Right. She didn't say that you're wrong. She didn't try to defend herself against the thing. What she said was basically, the door is open. You can now say, and now the door is shut. She's establishing boundaries.
Sure.
So in this respect, it's actually quite healthy.
Hey.
Especially compared to the relationship we've seen between Yato and Yukine.
Lots of times the people with whips understand boundaries best.
they have a very clear understanding of safe words and safe body language and stuff like that.
Hey, the red light, green light, yellow light, that it works.
It works. It really does. It really does. Try it sometime.
But then we also had him doing something behind her back.
Yes.
Which I really like, because
I love it too.
Because the thing that he was doing wasn't really sabotaging anything that she was trying to do.
Nope.
And it was also something where he was basically saying, I know her weaknesses and things like that.
Right.
And I know that you're not really a problem, so I want to spare you from this.
Yeah.
Right?
If anything, he noted that she would actually be someone that would be helpful to Yato, someone that he does care about. And this is the part that I thought was just really cool here. When you have a really good friend in a work kind of dynamic here, you have some level of authority dynamic in there as well.
Right. It can get complicated.
It can get complicated. But what she did here, and this is something that I think was probably really cool, is that she's out searching and stuff. He is eye in the sky, man in the, the telephone, kind of man in the ear, kind of giving the shot calling and everything like that. He probably notices something and he's like, quick, I'm going to deal with something real quick. And she's like, okay. I'm just assuming this is how it went down. But basically she didn't like, what are you doing? You haven't contacted in, or she's not micromanaging him. So then when he does this thing or what have you, she doesn't come in and go like, "Yeah, what are you doing?" What have you? They're a unit. They trust each other. And even though he is like hiding things from her specifically, like literally hiding something directly in front of her here. And he has the ability to do this, which is something I also really love because it's showing that a regalia can be on the power level, at least in certain areas, of a god.
And also with the whole thing of now granted, maybe this gives some insight into why he does this.
Sure.
But Yato knows whenever Yukine has a dirty thought. Right? You know, whenever he's doing something he's not supposed to. Right. You can tell. She totally trusts him. Right. He's going behind her back.
Totally.
But she can tell anything that he's doing, I don't have to worry about it.
Right.
I'm not getting any bad pings, any bad mojo.
Exactly.
Right? Like, I get the feeling...
That's a really good point.
That even if she finds out later, if she found out in the moment... she would have done something different because
what the hell?
That's why he hid her in the first place, right? But if she finds out later, I can imagine she would be like, "Oh, yeah, of course you did,
for sure.
All right, I'll let you have that one." You know, like it wouldn't be some big breach of trust thing. I'm guessing, because it's just, that this is kind of what I pay you for, even though I don't like that. This is also one of the things I'm paying you for.
Yes, no, this is a great point. This is a great point. When you have a fantastic assistant, there should be a bunch of things that are problems that they handle that you never hear about.
Right.
This is I would say one of the best things about having a number 2 that basically can just understand, okay, you're focused on this. So when I don't have anything specific to do, no commands being given from you to me, my job is to make sure that you are able to devote 100% of your attention, time, energy, passion, everything into that thing, and let nothing else come into you. It's basically the office and the secretary out front. The secretary goes, no meetings until 4 p.m. because I'm sorry, they're brainstorming a thing in there, and whatever.
And even the person that is the superior of that assistant, you want to stay out of their way.
Yeah, you don't want to come in and basically be like, I didn't like the way you blah, 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 blah.
So little story here. One of the worst jobs I ever had was at a coffee shop.
Yeah.
This was a nice coffee shop, right? It was like a privately owned thing.
We live close to Seattle, so yeah.
Right, exactly. So, of course, coffee shops everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And this was good stuff. Really great product, right? And it was run by this really chill dude, right? Awesome guy. Turns out he wasn't actually the owner or anything like that. He didn't even have any higher position within the organization, which was a bit sketch. But he ran a really great, ship, basically. He did payroll, he did all that stuff. He handled everything. But the owner would sometimes come into the shop. And it was always awful. Everyone knew it was awful whenever the owner came in. Because he didn't really understand how things worked because he was hardly there, and he would feel like he had to do all these little things to make it better that was actually making it worse.
Right.
Getting upset at employees that didn't do things exactly the way he wanted it to, or even getting upset at customers. And it was awful, right? And the best thing that he could have done is just gotten out of the way of this employee that he did not deserve, right? And was not rewarding properly for what he was doing.
Yeah.
But he didn't. And so I love to see here that in this bigger team dynamic where you would need to have an established system of how you do things, because there's a lot of them, otherwise it'd fall apart.
Right.
They have that. So it's one of those little things that I love.
Yeah. So Bishamon and her squad keep going up in our book constantly. And I love how it would be so easy for us to judge her as being a fan servicey character or something like that without a lot of depth. Turns out actually there's a lot there that we can actually get into. Now, let's get into the Yukine Yato stuff here, because this is the main crux of the plot and the conflict right now. Yato is getting this blight constantly spreading all over him here. And it's moving quickly.
Yeah.
It's moving quite quickly. Now, Nora is offering herself as a weapon tool for him to use. But the thing that I'm actually wondering is the reason why she's doing this also because he's got the blight, so that she's basically saying, hey, unname this guy. You can grab me and it'll just be fine. You don't even need to go into any crazy contracts or anything. But that will also not only be something that will make it easier for him to, use his weapon and or just to be able to slay phantoms, basically, to do his job, but also to provide a temporary salve on the spread of the blight.
Right, because if you're not connected to Yukine anymore, he's not exactly going to be causing you that trouble.
Right, but then the thing is that does Nora, being a being that has all this dark kind of stuff attributed to her, does she end up bringing about a spread of the blight? Because I would say on some level, I don't think she necessarily has to.
But you would think she would, because like if stealing a skateboard, right, and stealing change for granted for a charity, but like little things like that, if those are problems, what in the hell is someone like Nora gonna be bringing along?
Yeah, that's the thing though, is that I don't feel like it's a thing of their soul specifically, like in Soul Eater. It's more of the literal actions that have a moral weight attached to them, and that's where it gets a little bit clunky, is that there's a possibility here that Yukine could just fall in line, and this is probably what Yato wants, just fall in line and hate Yato's guts, like literally like hate him, but as long as he doesn't do things that fall under specific codes and boundaries, Yato won't be affected by the blight. So this is the problem, is that the system of rules isn't necessarily encouraging good relationships between Regalia and gods. It's encouraging gods to keep their Regalia in line.
Yeah, subservient, basically.
Exactly. And that's why I feel like Hiyori is so important in order to make this whole thing be resolved in a better way, is that she's going to show Yato that, no, this is not about having him just doing XYZ so that he can be a useful tool and not a problem for you within regards to the blight and stuff like that. But he's also a person. Right. You need to treat him right in a relationship. Yep. And if you're not willing to do that, then this is going to end up being toxic for you. This is end up going to be that problem there. But it's also going to lead to him either being stranded and alone. Yep. You're either going to go kill him with Nora, or you're going to die. Right. Like, there's no good ways this goes unless you make it up with him, really.
One of the things that I just had a thought of as for like a way that Nora doesn't spread corruption is, what if the whole idea of doing something bad, because, gods aren't always known for being perfectly upstanding individuals, if that makes sense.
Just in myth or anything.
Right, exactly. So, of course. so I would assume that would kind of go over to Regalia as well. Too. Right. Judging by our standards. That's the whole point.
Exactly.
But what if it's that this stuff, the thing that makes the blight is when the Regalia do something that's bad by their own standards. So for Yukine, because he's a good boy, right? Doing something like that's bad. Gotcha. And that creates the corruption, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. We don't know if it is a universal law. I mean,
maybe it is. Maybe it is, and I just missed it.
No, but I think Yato has brought up in the past something with regards to there being morals that gods and spiritual beings have to live by.
Okay. So
I will go back and check in between this episode.
I could totally be wrong about this, but as a crazy thought, what if that's one of the reasons why Nora works really well as a Regalia? Because she is so amoral that nothing she does ever sends any corruption back to you.
It's also
because she doesn't care.
Also, what could be really cool with that is that makes her so much more enticing as a tool.
Exactly. Yeah. Because it's just take care of it.
Risk-free.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's a really great way to think about it. Because even if that's not what it is, imagine if it's that, but it's like, no, it's that you can end up becoming then morally corrupted. It's you as a god then end up, potentially doing things yourself that then cross a line. It's not that Nora does it necessarily. It's that you end up basically having that. So it's like, no, almost everything you can get away with, but there are a couple things that are just too dangerous for you to be involved in, regardless of whether or not it's being done with a Nora or not.
Well, but that might also be one of the reasons why there are certain jobs that they don't want for their regular Regalia, but they would give to a Nora. Because, You can handle that all right.
Oh, you know what's really just gross about this?
Mm-hmm.
You know what's just really, really gross about this? What are regalia again?
Weapons?
No. They're human people that died, and then their spirits were given this thing by gods, not of the humans' free will. So Nora, even, from her perspective, might have been just a regular, good human girl that got used to slaughter people. And then, over the course of time, that warped her, and then... we just shame, like this is where I think they're gonna go with this eventually, because I definitely saw some parallels, if you will, the same kind of mentality that Senjin had over the Nora,
right?
In the same way that he kind of acted of it, was very condescending. It didn't seem to have any level of empathy or even sympathy.
Okay.
So what I think this is, and the way he was like, I don't even associate.
Right.
It felt to me like the equivalent of slut shaming. It's basically...
Yeah, no, I made that connection too. Yeah.
Basically them saying, Nora's
you master around
you.
With
You've been with too many, so now you're worthless. You're nothing. Doesn't that just perpetuate the problem?
Yeah, well,
because then what if there was a possibility? Blow your minds here. What if she just had a good relationship with a master? Oh, is that just not possible because of some universal law or something like that? That your tiny god brain can't comprehend, that would work around, even though the Noras themselves are already a workaround for these laws of regalia in that respect. So I feel like what they're setting up is that Nora is actually like extremely sad in terms of a story for her character, and that it's like, oh no. Just remember where they came from. Just remember why they ended up being in this line of work.
And they don't have to change Nora's whole angle of how she is now, because let's face it, she does the whole creepy do not trust, stay 39.5 feet away, please.
Oh, yeah.
Very well.
Yeah, and I think that still applies here. You can still have a situation where she's not good for you.
Right, but maybe... she wasn't always that way necessarily, or like a cautionary tale of,
right. But like to bring in another regalia god dynamic that's a little bit unhealthy, but it's still decent, is Kofuku and Kuro. Think about the fact that the god is like actually a blight upon everything that she touches, right? Yet Kuro is steadfast, loyal to her.
Yes. Yeah.
Does she just intrinsically deserve this because she's a god? Her track record must be horrible, right?
Yeah, her track record isn't great.
So if anything,
he's doing a service for the rest of humanity and spirit kind, or whatever.
Right, totally. You can see it that way. But I think it's also that he just genuinely cares and has actual, like,
he cares
human sympathy, empathy, emotions, everything for her. And it's like... yeah, he's like, of course I'm doing something good by keeping her in check, but also, like, I care about her. Like, this isn't just some thing of where, like, I look down upon her in some way. So I feel like that's where we can also draw a little bit of distinction there, is that Senjin, he has, like, the most haughty way of looking at it.
Pomp.
Yeah, and of course, he also has... his whole kind of harem dynamic
of
here,
regalia,
where you can see
beck and call.
Yeah, exactly. That it's not like he has any needs or wants in this world. He's made
the
it
wealthy
to the top.
decrying the desperate.
Yes, exactly.
Right.
Why don't you just not do that? Like,
right, exactly. Yeah.
Why don't you just stop being depressed? I don't see what the problem is here. Oh my god. Okay. Then we had a lot of comedy this episode.
We did, and the comedy was absolutely wonderful. I'm not exactly sure why Hiyori, if she could just smell Yato, needed them to go find it. I don't know.
No. I don't think it has anything to do with that. It's that she initially was told, if you ever need help,
go to them.
Go to them.
Right.
Or not only that, if I'm in trouble.
Yes, that's true.
So she's basically saying, I need backup. I need an intervention.
That is a great point. Yeah, have the backup to basically. It's almost like this like sort of Damocles kind of a thing where she brings along this thing that's just like hanging in the air and very dangerous. And she's like, I brought this along because I need to show you how important of a problem this is. So this is going to stay here until you listen. Like,
it's funny because she did that twice then in a lot of ways. But the second time was more of the empathetic side where she basically slaps herself to be like, I can do this. I can tell him off. Yes, I'm going to go tell off a god. But, I can do this.
Trash god, granted.
No. A war god.
Right.
Who apparently is scary as hell.
Right.
And she doesn't know. She hasn't known him for that
kind
long.
Of hot, maybe.
Like think about this from her perspective. This is why I really love Hiyori as a main character. She's done a lot of things thus far that just make sense with where she's at.
Yeah.
And then when she's put into a situation that's really tough, you see it actually be difficult for her to do the thing.
Yeah.
So then she... Wah.
Like not just once or twice, like 5 or 6 times.
She's practically blighting her cheeks in order to make this happen.
And Yato's like, whoa, hold on now.
Right.
Yeah. You're going to hurt yourself.
As long as it's not the tail, I guess we're good. But then then she walks up to him, and instead of slapping him, like I thought she was going to do some kind of tsundere thing, she's like, hey, Baka, listen.
Yeah,
like,
look into my eyes. No, don't look away.
Yeah. Take me seriously here.
Yep.
And then she does the please at the end to basically be like, hey, like at least feel the emotion of what I'm trying to communicate through here. And he kind of gets it. I think he does. Because when he fought the Phantom, he was like, hey, I chose this kid. Like, I picked this kid out there.
You can get lost, Nora.
Because, but he was saying that I don't even know if he had heard necessarily what Nora had said. Did he hear everything, though?
I don't know if he heard everything, but I believe he knew
got
she
the
was
gist.
there. Yeah.
Okay, because when he arrived, Nora was basically equating him to this useless piece of fruit that no one will pick, no one will eat. You're just going to sit there rotten. And
his eyes aren't even worth gouging out. Or
whatever
it was that she said.
I don't remember her saying anything like that.
Whatever it was a pretty messed up analogy that she was making.
But Yato understood how quickly he needed to get Yukine free from that. Yeah. And I liked how much he basically where was it here? He makes some point while he's fighting the Phantom that he's like, hey, I chose this punk or what have you. Nora, just leave already. He might be a lousy little punk. But I found and named him.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that's the beginning. Yato, that's just step 1.
Right.
Need to do about 5 more steps in order to bring this towards a little bit of a better resolution here.
Exactly.
But okay. So far, so good. I also liked the little cool thing of where
the water.
Yeah, the water was just a thing of him like,
I've been around the block, kid. You know, like
he's like, I could tell I was maybe going to need a little bit of extra help at some point.
Yeah.
But then my final thing I wanted to bring up was freaking where is she? Kofuku tripping Yukine
oh my God.
as he ran out of the store. Yes, with the money from the charity. Which is like, okay, yes, he's not even competent enough to get into the cash register.
Right.
So of course he took this. But it's like, this is the point actually, I think, at this level where you can see Yukine's frustration turning a little bit into spite here.
Oh yeah, because he didn't want the money.
But right.
It wasn't about the money.
Right. But one of the things that I think needs to be brought up here, and this is why I wanted to bring this up all in one go here, is that there's a possibility that Yukine hadn't stolen the money yet.
Oh, until they said, did you steal something?
Because he thought about it. But then when he thought about it, Yato interpreted the thought as, oh, you would do that?
Yeah. And then he's fine. Yeah.
And then it's a thing of where he's like,
you.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, if you're going to just think I would do that.
Assume that I would do that.
That is totally a thing that kids do.
Oh, yeah.
If you are going to project so much of your, suspicions onto a kid, of what they will do.
A little bit of trust and respect goes a long way.
They will end up fulfilling the exact expectations that you put on them.
Yep.
And it's kind of like a wish with a demon.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're gonna get exactly what you wished for. But did you check your verbiage? Did you check the way in which you wrote that contract? Because
you don't want it to be a contract. That's the thing. You don't want it to be something where it's I own you. You're legally obligated to do what I say. Like if you wanted them to just if you wanted to have a slave, that's like, then maybe you should look inside and realize that you're more wanting to slave, or something like that. If you're wanting to just have a tool, it's not going to work out well.
Yeah.
Because they're not.
Yeah. So now, here we are. Things are looking a little better. Things are looking a little better. We have a new character that's been teased here.
Yes. I like
the
design.
Very creepy design. We don't know if it's a god or a regalia, though.
I get the feeling it's a god.
I get the feeling, too.
It felt sort of like the current partner of your ex that's like, oh yeah, I know what's up. I know what the situation is, but hey, let's go, babe. I'm also really excited to have another character for Nora to interact with, because
we can see a different side of her.
We can potentially see a different side of her, because that can help give more depth to her overwhelmingly creepy factor when we see her with the main cast.
Yeah.
So,
but y'all, thank you so much for watching this episode's reaction and discussion. If you want to see the next episode's reaction and discussion right now, though, go check out the link in the description below for our Patreon. You can get on early access there. You can watch full-length timer reactions there, and all this comes with Discord access, so you can chat with us and the community there about this show, about anime in general, and you can also talk with Jacob about the sci-fi novel that he wrote.
That's right. If you want to read a sci-fi novel that has awesome swords and awkward parental relationships, then check out my novel Battle Lines. It's on Amazon. The link is in the description.
Yeah, so if any of that interests you, we'll see you there. But until then, we're Semblance of Sanity. I'm Caleb.
I'm Jacob.
And we'll see you all next time.